Hello everybody, Jared Volle here for CreativeStandUp.com. In this video, I want to talk about what creates massive success in stand-up comedy and why so many comedians get trapped in the open mic to semi-pro level and they hit that glass ceiling, they can't seem to get above it. So I want to address why that's the case and how you can go about in your career making sure that that doesn't happen to you. So in order to do that, I need to debunk some of the myths that comedians and people in general have about what creativity really is. Most creative people will assume that any creative activity, anytime you sit down to write, anytime you're performing, that is equal to being creative. And what I want you to be open to the possibility that is not in itself creativity. Creativity is not what you are doing, like writing or performing. It's not the what, it is how you are doing it. In what way you're going about doing your writing. How are you performing? That is where creativity really lies. So let's talk quickly about what creativity actually is. So I'm going to give you a very brief. So creativity equals your effectiveness times your uniqueness. All right, so your ability to be creative is dependent on two factors. Your effectiveness. Are you able to get on stage and get those laughs? Are you able to sit down and write and actually generate some ideas that audiences are really going to want to hear? That's all about effectiveness. And then the second component of that is your uniqueness. Are you giving the audience a reason to remember you? Together, these two are what we generally just call creativity. Okay, so now that we see that creativity is equal to your effectiveness and your uniqueness, we have to break down creativity a little bit further. So there are two types of creativity. There's what's called little c creativity, and then there's big C creativity. And no, I did not name them. I know those names are horrible. So what is the difference between the two? Well, little c creativity is all about perfecting the rules and strategies that are already in existence. So you've probably read several stand-up comedy books. You've taken in some different resources, and you learn different strategies for doing different things. Some of these are on writing, marketing, some are joke formulas, whatever they may be. Let's just keep it general here. You learn the current rules that are working in stand-up comedy. And there's nothing wrong with that. You need to have that ability. You need to have that effectiveness. Little c is all about generating it's all about increasing your efficiency, which is fantastic. Every comedian in the world needs to be able to go on stage and get some laughs. So that's little c creativity. Big C creativity is very different. And this is where you see the top comedians in the world. They're all exhibiting this same type of creativity. Or actually, I'd say they're doing both at the same time. So big C creativity is like, okay, you have the rules, you have the knowledge, but instead of saying, okay, I'm going to spend my career perfecting that knowledge. I'm going to get so good at writing this style of joke and delivering that kind of joke or whatever. Instead of focusing on perfecting all of this, comedians over here are saying, okay, I understand the rules, but I want to explore what lies outside of what is generally done by all the other comedians. So it's easy to see that big C creativity is all about increasing your uniqueness. Okay, so you can see how these two different strategies affect our creativity in different ways. So the little c creativity, they're about perfecting. So they're perfecters. They're trying to be the best comedians at applying the known rules of stand-up comedy, the known rules of their industry. Big C, they're more like explorers. All right, so they don't see their job as simply perfecting what is known. They see their job as finding the things that are on the fringes, finding these new ideas and bringing them into the industry. And if you want a couple of examples, Steve Martin is always a fantastic example. Anti-comedy, he brought in this idea that that what is not funny can actually be very hilarious. So you watch any Steve Martin, he did the exact opposite of what every other comedian was doing, except for Albert Brooks. He was doing some anti-comedy as well. Pryor, Carlin, they both did this as well. Pryor and Carlin, both early on in their career, exhibited very high levels of little c creativity. They were very good at getting laughs. However, both of those comedians went through a period of their career where they had to break away from what they were doing. They took a step back, and then when they came back onto the comedy scene, they focused here on their big C creativity. And what Pryor did was he brought these very personal stories into his comedy that had not been seen before. So now what he's done as an explorer is he's expanded our industry. Carlin did the same thing. He brought this very edgy political humor into stand-up comedy. So now let's talk about why these two concepts are so important. So to do that, we're going to take a normal bell curve, and then just think of this. And this is bell curves apply to pretty much every industry in the world. So the majority of comedians are going to be towards the middle of this bell curve. They're going to be very similar to each other. And here's what's interesting. There's two different perspectives of looking at this bell curve. As an audience member, we love the comedians that are unique. They're different from the other comedians. So they are the ones that, when we think about like Chris Rock or comedians like that they're wildly different from the other comedians that are out there. My favorite examples, of course, Steve Martin and Andy Kaufman. I think they're both wildly original. They are way out here towards the edge. They're very, very unique as performers. So as an audience member, we love the comedians that are out here, the ones that are perfecting their uniqueness. However, as a stand-up comedian, we tend to drift towards the middle. So if you are always focusing on your effectiveness of trying to say, how can I get more laughs on stage? How can I get to more punchlines? How can I, perform better? You're focusing on perfecting the known rules of the game. And what happens is, because you are working with the same ideas that everyone else is, you are going to be falling towards the middle of the bell curve. And this is true even if you are really good at perfecting these rules. If you are a great writer, you are able to perfect all these rules as a writer or performer, then you're still going to be towards the middle of the bell curve. You're just going to be a little bit better than the other comedians that are also there. However, if you shift over here and look at the big C, the explorers, that is what brings you towards the outside, where audiences actually can remember you, where you give them a good reason to follow you, become your fans long after the show. So this is why we want to be impacting, or why we want to be looking at big C creativity. So in order to understand this, let's break creativity down into 3 components. I'll give you another way of looking at creativity. And this is going to explain why so many comedians are going to be drifting towards the middle of this bell curve. So creativity can be broken down into 3 overarching components separate from this. One is called your domain-specific knowledge. Domain-specific knowledge is all about understanding the rules of the game. So the more domain-specific knowledge you have, the more you understand all of these rules. So you kind of have a really good mental map of what a great joke looks like, what a good performance looks like. So these are all your skills, the normal skills of stand-up comedy. So that is your domain-specific knowledge. Our domain, stand-up comedy, specific to stand-up comedy knowledge. So it's DSK. Then there is your motivation. All right, motivation is obviously very important to anything, any activity, creative or otherwise. But without motivation, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have, nothing's going to get done. So the third component is creativity relevant skills. Okay, so creativity relevant skills are the strategies that you're using to focus on your uniqueness. So domain-specific knowledge is all about being able to perfect. Your creativity-relevant skills are all about impacting your uniqueness. So together, these two, and then you combine it with motivation to actually get things done. That is what creates success in any industry, just like stand-up comedy. So here's the issue. Domain-specific knowledge, largely in our industry, everybody's been focusing on this, especially stand-up comedy teachers, stand-up comedy books, any of the resources out there. They're almost always, probably 98, 99% of them are focusing on teaching you a tactic or a skill that is going to make you more effective as a comedian. And that's great to know, but when 99% of our focus is on domain-specific knowledge, then success in our industry is really about these two only. So it's about how much do I understand the industry and am able to apply those skills, and then how much work am I getting done? How much am I applying it? So what ends up happening is that comedians will rewrite their material, rewrite, try to get more effective, and they'll end up boosting their efficiency very high, but at the same time, they're still finding themselves out here towards the middle. But as we said, audiences are in love with the comedians that are out here. So as an industry, we need to be looking at all three components of creativity. And right now, that is not happening in our industry. So we need to recognize that creativity is a skill, and research has shown that creativity can be increased. The amount of creativity that you have does not have to stay that way. You can learn skills that allow you to increase your ability to be more unique. And real quick, I want to show you one of the traps that it's very easy to fall into as a new comedian. So let's look at another graph. Let's say, all right, so this is like 100%, and this is your rewrites. Okay, so this is the number of times that you rewrite your material, and this is hypothetical. So let's say the very top is 100%. It is a perfect joke. You cannot change the writing, the performance of it, or any aspect of it without making it worse. So it's the hypothetical perfect joke. Now, pretty much everyone's going to agree with me. The more times you rewrite your material, you make little changes and see what works. You keep the things that are working and you toss out the things that aren't. Every time you rewrite, you get closer to this hypothetical perfect joke. And you never really have the perfect joke, so the line never really touches. The danger here is that everyone is concentrating on domain-specific knowledge. They're concentrating on perfecting the known skills of stand-up comedy. So what ends up happening, the conclusion that new comedians are drawing, is that success is all about here. It is all about taking your motivation, rewrite, and having this fantastic material. And obviously that's important. We want high efficiency in our material. But even with an infinite number of rewrites, that will not change your uniqueness. You can always increase the effectiveness of your material through rewriting it. This always holds true. However, you can never increase the uniqueness of your material through a rewrite. So what happens if you do? If you say, okay, I'm going to rewrite material. I have, let's say, maybe I built 10, 15 minutes or so, and I'm going to rewrite it and I'm going to make it more unique. What ends up happening is everything becomes really disjointed and awkward because you have this story or this persona that is already put together, and the pieces are not going to fit. And that's why comedians like Richard Pryor and George Carlin threw out their old material. And remember, they perfected the rules of the game. They had amazing material. Their efficiency was skyrocketed. However, when they tried to come out with this new unique idea, they tried to explore the unknown, they found that these two ideas could not work together. They couldn't rewrite themselves into becoming unique. So that's why so many comedians go through this period where they end up throwing out all their material and they try again. So what I always say is that it's much more dangerous to focus on efficiency over uniqueness, because you can be crazy unique, but you can still end up rewriting things until you figure out the efficiency. And this is sort of what happened with Steve Martin. Steve Martin started with the uniqueness. He was this crazy anti-comedian, and he was getting no laughs on stage. And you can read his autobiography. It is fantastic. But he talks about being at the Ice House and performing to 0 laughs. And it would be hard to say that he was a great comedian at that point. He had no efficiency, but what he did have was uniqueness. And what's always true is that you can rewrite your material to become more effective, but you cannot rewrite it to be more unique. So assuming that you're with me so far and you're saying, yes, I understand that uniqueness is important in my industry and to become successful, the obvious follow-up question is, okay, now what? How do I actually go about increasing my uniqueness? So one of the common questions that I get on creativestandup.com is, okay, what do I do? How do I take that first action? I'm at the very beginning, so let's say, this is like time and this is like your skill level. So as time goes up, you get better skills. So a lot of people come to me, at the lower levels, and they say, okay, I agree, I want to be unique. What do I do? How do I just revolutionize something? Well, here's what you do. So instead of saying these are rewrites, let's say that this is uniqueness and time. So your uniqueness is going to be increasing throughout your career, but only if you are putting effort into this big C, creativity. Most people that come to me and ask these questions, they assume that creativity is more revolutionary, where you just say, okay, I'm going to be unique, and you sit down in a chair and you go, okay, well, what if I do something crazy like this? And you try to do all of these at the same time. But that's not how this type of creativity works. If you read biographies from a lot of great, highly creative stand-up comedians, you'll see that they didn't do that. They started acquiring new skills one at a time. So instead of being revolutionary, they allowed their creativity and their uniqueness to evolve. So it was evolutionary. Each time you take one of these new ideas, you explore something and you say, and you incorporate it into your material, into your performance, then you slowly bring yourself away from the middle of the bell curve. So being highly unique, more often than not, is about consistently focusing on acquiring these new ideas, exploring new ideas. And then obviously you want to come back and you want to perfect them. You want to use your little C creativity as well. But at the same time, you want to be putting a lot of focus into how can I explore the unknown? What can I bring into my industry that is not here right now? And that is how you evolve away from the other comedians. And within a couple of short months, you can just be wildly original that way. And it is so much easier than sitting down at your computer and saying, okay, I want to be unique. Go. So I know I've given you a lot to think about in this video. The point of this video is really just to change your perspective on what creates success in your industry, so that you're not completely focusing here and saying, okay, I need to rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. And then a year down the road, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, you're still in this area here, but you have a lot of skills. That's not where you want to end up in 5 years. You want to be ending up here where you're unique, but also where you have high effectiveness. So you're able to get laughs and be memorable. And that's what creates massive success in your comedy career. So the point of this video is not to give you specific strategies. It's just to open you up to the possibility that you need to be looking into this unknown. You need to be exploring new ideas and inviting these new ideas into your writing process and into your performances. So hopefully this video has helped you see, kind of changed your view on what creativity as a stand-up comedian truly is. My name's Jared Volle for CreativeStandup.com. If you want to learn more about how you can increase your creativity, then swing by our website. We have tons of blogs, and I also explain a lot of these concepts in our free hour of videos that you get if you just sign up for our, if you opt in on our website. So I hope to see you on the website, and you can always shoot me an email. We have a contact form, and we have frequently asked questions. So if you have a question, use the contact form, or you can leave a comment. So thanks for watching. I'm Jared Volle.